What's up, Offworlders? Welcome to another astounding episode of Offworld Off Topic. With me, Sam Paler, and Mark Fox-Powell.
Hello.
Offworld Off Topic is Offworld Empire's weekly show.
Yes, it is indeed.
This week, you've done something that I'm jealous of.
Yes. Well, actually, I did it last week.
Oh.
But I'm going to tell you about it this week.
Yes. I'm highly jealous. You actually tried the HTC Vive.
Yeah, I did.
The
proper... Well, it was a Vive Pre. It was a Vive Pre, but
That's
still, it was basically, yeah. And it was room scale. So
Yeah.
I was...
So what was the experience? You went to do some sort of weird, like, horror thing.
It was a complete surprise for a start. I had a ticket bought for me as a surprise, so I didn't know it was going to happen until it was about to happen, which was awesome. But it was a thing in London, and it's a bit weird. It's kind of like an interactive, I say interactive. It's almost like a theatre thing,
Right.
where you get taken to this warehouse, and it's all like a zombie apocalypse, and you get led through the warehouse, and there's so it's like a horror hospital ward where there's like a doctor telling you about the zombies, and then you get led into a dark room, and there's a fucking zombie chained up that runs at you and all this stuff. And people were freaking out. Like, all that's real. That's not VR.
Yeah.
The VR stuff is in the middle, which is obviously what I was, all about, what I was there for.
Yeah.
The horror like stuff. To be fair to them, it was really well done. It was kind of convincing, but I always find in those kind of situations, if you've ever done anything
No, I
like
haven't.
that,
They always sound a bit weird to me.
yeah, like I can't like relax. I can't ever
Take it
believe
seriously. Yeah, you can't take it seriously.
Take it seriously. I'm just a bit like, there's a person dressed as a zombie right there. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah, can't.
get me to the VR.
Yeah.
But I did another thing like that.
So it's sort of like a haunted house type thing, but with more kind of.
It was
assets.
very well put together though.
Yeah, like
it
a
had
higher
very
budget version.
high production kind of value.
Yeah.
The weird thing was, I'll get to the VR in just a sec. The weird thing was, we were told to meet just at a random place in London.
Yes.
And I had to wear like a certain thing to like identify ourselves to the people, but there was nothing there. It's like under a bridge.
Oh right, okay.
And then they turn up in like a military truck and bundle you all into the back, and then they close it and it's pitch black in there, and they just drive for about 15 minutes. And
That's
when you
cool.
get out, you're in a warehouse and you don't know where you are.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, it was cool. That kind of thing.
It's like that Darren Brown thing where he
it had flavours of that.
kidnaps that guy.
But
if you don't know
that was nuts. Like in the middle of like a pub game or something. Right?
Yeah, he's like some sort of like magician-y. Is he around in America, Darren Brown?
I have no idea.
He's kind of like a sort of, I don't know how to describe him, like a magician type thing.
I think he just describes himself as an illusionist.
Yeah, and he
does all these like
done weird like hypnosis stuff that I don't know. But yeah, that he did something where he seemed to convince some guy that he was in like a zombie apocalypse. It's pretty entertaining. But sounds a bit like that. Anyway, so you then ended up in this. You did this warehouse stuff, all this live actor stuff, and being dragged around in a weird military vehicle. Then.
Yeah, so then we were chased into a room. They were like, get into this room, there's zombies everywhere, run. And we had to run through this corridor. And on the way through the corridor, like one by one, we were grabbed and pulled into a room off to the side. And like this is happening to people like behind me and in front of me.
Yes.
And then eventually I was grabbed and pulled into a room. And in this room was the VR setup. It was just a white room. But like, yeah, so then it was very quickly into the VR, which was
so they
awesome.
They got a white room. And is there like a zombie who's giving you like instructions?
No, it was like someone who was like acting as if they were like the whole place was meant to be like a military medical installation.
Right, okay.
And this was just one of the people there.
Yeah.
And the whole VR thing was like meant to be like your training to go and to go and fight zombies outside.
Okay, yeah.
You're like a recruit.
That's how they wove it in.
Right, yeah, whatever. Crowbar it in.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly, who cares? Anyway, so so it was the Vive Pre and
some game.
Bear in mind that the only VR I've ever tried up until then was the Google Cardboard for like 5 minutes in the office.
Well, this is what I wanted to hear about because we were talking about I've used the DK2, and you used the Cardboard, and we're kind of talking about, we did a whole episode obviously on VR, and I was trying to describe some of the kind of things I did with the DK2 and like how cool it was. So I'm interested to hear what you thought of VR, as in what VR. Whether you think it kind of is the tip of the iceberg, it is going to live up to the hype sort of thing, and what the experience was like and everything about, but then also what the Vive was like as well, the technology, the hardware.
Sure. So the experience, like it's definitely going to live up to the hype.
You weren't let down or anything. You were.
No, I mean I've spent so much time kind of imagining what it's going to be like. I think I had a pretty good idea of what it was going to be like, and it was kind of like what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But I didn't take away from it. Just like the first moment of putting it on, I was just in some kind of like loading room, a bit like the Matrix. It's just a white floor going off into infinity, basically.
Like the white room you were in.
Yeah, kind of
bigger.
But yeah, it's sort of infinite.
That's weird. What? Yeah,
and then you kind of just look around. I was like looking around, and it just immediately struck me that how good the tracking is. Like it's just perfect. And that was something that like you immediately stop noticing because it's so good.
The tracking of
the movement, and also moving around the room, which I didn't really do it initially, but I started doing a lot more.
You didn't have any controllers at this point?
No controllers at this point. So yeah, then the technician person gives me the controllers, and obviously you can't see the person, you can just see the controllers like floating in front of you, which is
so awesome.
Which is cool. Yeah, and you just take them, and then it just feels you don't need to like take the headset off and look at them. You just get. You
just know where they are from reaching out and grabbing them.
Yeah.
Because it's so one-to-one.
That was all a bit weird because you're holding these things, but you can't see your arms.
Yeah.
But yeah, the experience of it was very. I immediately felt like I was in that place, but as a kind of a weird like disembodied consciousness or something. But then as soon as they loaded up the game, I looked down at my hands, and I actually have like hands, like proper like big like fucking like I don't know, just giant like man hands.
Right.
And like they would just move when I moved and stuff.
But they were they holding?
I was holding the controllers at this point, but you weren't in the game. You weren't holding anything. And then you like turn around and
but are the controllers in the simulation of the game?
No.
So it's just some hands.
You just have some hands. Yeah. And then you like pick up a gun. The person was telling me like, so I was a bit like, what the hell's going on? Like, oh, look, I'm in a place, like a world.
Yeah.
Which is, it was the game Arizona Sunshine, I think it's called.
Okay, so it's sort of, is it
like
a
zombie shooter
type?
Yeah, in the desert, with lots of like ruined cars and like old like, I don't know, bridges and I don't know, just kind of rusty old looking like derelict stuff around. Yeah. And loads of zombies.
Yeah, Google it. I think there's images.
Yeah, there are. I didn't know that's what it was until afterwards. I just sort of looked it up. But yeah, then so the thing
is, nothing in your hands.
Nothing in your hands, and the technician's like, pick the gun up, and didn't tell me how, but it's just like kind of obviously just use the trigger and the trackpad on the controller just to pick it up like you would pick up an object, and now you have a gun in your hand. And the weird thing about that was that it just completely felt like I had a gun in my hand. Like I actually had I mean, I might as well have had a gun in my hand. I mean, obviously it's light because it's a controller.
Yeah.
But you're looking at your hand, and your hand is moving exactly the same as your actual hand is, and it's holding something, and you see a gun, so like, you just feel like it is a gun. They need to put recoil into it or something, so that when you fire, you get the recoil.
They used to have those on old arcade games. Do you remember? They used to have those like plastic things that would knock backwards and forwards when you fired. Like House of the Dead, like and you'd go and.
So the game itself was good fun.
It's more of a. Is it a proper game or a tech demo?
It's just a demo, just a demo.
I mean, obviously, it was great fun.
The fun aspect of it, obviously, was the VR, and like as I got into it, I started using the room scale stuff like a bit more, and
sort of relaxed into it, and was like properly looking around and like ducking, and I wasn't getting shot at, but you could like hide behind like a boulder or something, and so the zombies couldn't get to you, and like shoot them from another angle and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing all that, and like you just explore the whole scale of the room. Yeah. And the fact that it was confined to just that room didn't really matter because the game was set up. Like I didn't ever feel like I needed more space to roam around. Yeah. But I did use the space I had. If that makes sense. So you like peeking when you hide behind bolt. You feel like you're literally hiding behind stuff to kind of
exactly. You get that feeling of well, I mean, what am I trying to say? Like when you are like crouched behind something, if you're hiding from something, you feel like it's really there.
You feel like you're safer behind it.
Exactly. Even though there's nothing there in real life, it's just it gives you the illusion of having a thing there.
Yeah.
So that was all really cool. There was a part of it, just one like demo level in like a disused mine. It's all pitch black, and you have a torch in one hand, and you're holding the torch above your shoulder like this, and the gun, and I mean, I just felt like I'm immediately kind of switching into this kind of like I'm something from like a TV show, like The Walking Dead or something, just like like
that's so cool.
Just fell into the role of it. the person and the technician, watching all these people do that must be pretty funny.
Yeah,
just literally a person with a headset on, just like thinking
diving around.
Jason Bourne.
I imagine some people shitting themselves as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I guess you didn't get to see anyone else.
No, it was
just you, and then you got led out, right?
Yeah, you get like dragged out again, like really quickly. It's like take the headset off, go, go, go.
Yes.
And then it was on with the rest of the thing,
yeah.
which lasted another. That was like halfway through.
Yes.
And after it, I was just like,
get me back to the Vive,
because they'd said at the beginning that there was another Vive headset at the end that we were allowed to use, which I did use again.
Yes.
Only for like a minute,
right.
And it was much. Like it was quite different because there were people everywhere, and I didn't have headphones on, and it didn't feel anywhere near as immersive.
Oh right, okay.
At the second time.
Yeah.
So you really need. I think
you do it on your own or with a friend or whatever.
Yeah. And just have the opportunity to like explore.
I've heard that from a lot of people who go to these big shows, and they say that it does take away from it being on a big show floor with lots of people running around. That you obviously you feel like you're somewhere. From visually, but when there's no noise,
I had people asking me questions and stuff while I was doing it,
and that's it's not.
Yeah, it does detract from it.
Yeah, you can't get the full
and plus
experience.
I felt like I needed to pass it on because there's loads of people waiting.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't just relax and kind of get into it.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the hardware then? You said the tracking was ridiculously good.
Yeah, like perfect.
What about how comfortable was it?
Again, it's hard to really know because I
guess you only had it on for 10 minutes
and then rushed out.
Yeah,
and it was all quite intense.
And you haven't used any of the other headsets.
I haven't used any of the headsets. I have nothing to compare it to. I did feel like I couldn't maybe move my head as fast as I would have without anything on, just because I was aware that I had this kind of thing. And probably if I had more time to really adjust it and get the feel for it, or use it for a bit and then maybe take it off and adjust the straps a bit, and then it might have been a bit more comfortable. It wasn't uncomfortable. But I didn't use it for long enough to be honest.
No, you didn't get a fair shake really in the comfort rating. So what about the screen then? Yeah, the resolution, screen door effect, brightness, all that stuff.
So because we've obviously been chatting about this loads and we did episodes on it and everything, I was really paying attention to all that stuff. And the resolution's not great.
No. Okay.
Noticeably not good.
Yes.
But obviously that's going to change over the next few years.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really matter.
No.
The kind of things that put you into the world are really the tracking. The motion, tracking the head movements.
Yes, yeah.
And your body movements and stuff. And everything else is almost so for example, the screen door effect, which was noticeable, kind of looked like I was wearing a mesh helmet all the time, which is fine really, because it just looks like you're in a normal world wearing a mesh helmet. Not that it doesn't take you out of it really.
Yeah.
And same with the resolution. Well, the resolution makes it look like a video game from maybe 7 years ago or something like that, rather than an up-to-date 2D screen video game.
Yes.
Again,
was that a problem when you were looking at stuff at distance and anything like that?
Yeah. The zombies coming from the distance were really really rubbish resolution.
Yeah, just sort of hazy.
Yeah, yeah. You can still see them and stuff. Yeah. So it didn't hinder the game.
No.
And it didn't. You still felt present in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
But obviously with better resolution, it's just going to be a better experience.
Yeah. A few years down the line, that problem will obviously disappear.
Yeah.
But for people buying them now, I guess that's just. I mean, like I said, I pre-ordered an Oculus. I've still got the pre-order on. That's the same resolution as the Vive, so that's just something I'll.
Presumably, as the resolution gets better, the screen door effect will get better as well, because pixel size will go down, I'd imagine.
Yeah, the screen door effect's a combination of different things, I think.
The Oculus, they get rid of it by using crazy lenses, right?
Apparently, yes.
Partially.
I think I'm not actually sure if they're absolutely identical, but they are essentially the same screens as in the Vive. But they use an optical diffuser or something, I think, that helps blur over a slight screen door effect you get. Most people who use the Oculus don't say that. They say there's not a noticeable screen door effect.
Right.
In the Vive, and in the Vive that there is a slight screen door effect. The resolution will help, definitely. That will eventually get rid of the screen door effect. But it's also the amount per pixel of each pixel that's illuminated.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a dark edge around the pixel, even if it gets very fine, you'll still maybe have a very slight screen door effect to a point, and then it will disappear. So the combination of that, the diffusers, and the resolution will all add up to it will get rid probably. I imagine the second batch of these headsets, if they get to like 4K resolution type things, it won't be a problem.
I mean, that's going to be beast.
But it'll be really hard to run on the computers that are around at the moment. That's one of the reasons they probably haven't gone up to that.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, these things are churning out like ridiculous frame rates and stuff, as well as like, changing the angles of the camera, like the virtual camera angles. As soon as you move your head, like everything has to change. Like it's a crazy amount of like graphics processing that goes into it.
One thing that people have been saying with the Oculus is that you get this slight like God ray effect. So
what is that?
Very slight. It's just internal reflections and stuff in the lenses themselves. So I think it's only really noticeable in high contrast areas. So where you've got like white bright writing against a black background, and you'll see these tiny little rays and things, almost like a lens flare effect.
Yeah, okay.
Like a J.J. Abrams, just getting in the Oculus and sort of putting some lens flare on. That you get that in certain. I guess because of the stuff. Maybe saw it in the Mine, but I guess to
be honest,
it's such a short demo, and you weren't really looking for it. So
wasn't really looking for it. I can say that the screen door effect was noticeable pretty much constantly, except in the dark Mine, because it was dark.
Yeah, but everyone says, you just forget about it.
You forget about it really quickly. Yeah, you just learn to kind of look through it.
Yes,
weirdly.
Yeah.
The better resolution would help massively, and the other thing is the field of view. Again, like very noticeable.
Yeah.
That you like. That's one of the first things, and like, again, you get used to it very quickly, and it doesn't. In the long run, doesn't impact your like feeling of presence, but I think initially the first like few minutes of wearing, not even the first few minutes, like the first 30 seconds or something of wearing it, you don't feel like you've like entered a new world particularly. No, it's more you to get that feeling you need to move around.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why people say that you feel presence a lot more when you do room scale.
Yes,
and that's why people get a stronger reaction to the Vive than they have to the Oculus. So once the Oculus Touch things and come out, and it does have room scale, presumably it's going to have room scale. Probably going to.
Because I spent
then you'll probably get
the first bit of the game, of the actual like demo game, whatever, shooting zombies, just sort of just stood there, just like shooting straight ahead. But then as I started moving around, the whole world suddenly felt like it opened up.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is because you don't have a peripheral vision and you are kind of looking essentially at a screen. You feel like you're looking at a screen. But as soon as you start moving around, that feeling goes away, and then you just feel like you're wearing like some kind of like blinker type thing on either side of your eye.
Yes.
So it's like you're wearing blinkers and like a mesh helmet, but then beyond that, like you're in the world.
Yes. That's very cool.
Can't wait for them to sort out like full field of view.
Yeah.
So you have total peripheral vision.
Like I guess you'd have to. You have to have bigger screens.
Yeah,
wrap-around screen type things. There must be an engineering solution to that, or just project it directly into your retina or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the apparently Magic Leap's trying to do something. I mean, Magic Leap's not VR, or it might have a VR.
Maybe it will though.
People have been talking about maybe it will. But
so
you could do that as a potential way to get like a full field of view, or just have some mad. The helmet would have to be big though if you had to have a like wrap around screens.
Yeah, unless you have like a slightly curved screen and then just like really mental lenses.
Yes, like some really cool optics.
Yeah, very
highly fish-eyed.
Yeah,
that might cause.
And then obviously you have to compensate for that with all the graphics on the screen.
Yeah,
which would be
really
highly
weird. Distorted.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, undoubtedly that will come somehow. Somehow that will be a thing. So
yeah. So overall, you were impressed? Not impressed?
Definitely impressed. Yeah. Overall, definitely.
Do you think this is going to be something that's like a new entertainment medium that's going to last? As in, is this like a new type of? Is it going to be a biggest change as something like a TV? That's a big change.
That is a big change. Like from a world with no TVs to a world with TVs.
Yeah. Or is there anything comparable?
I think it has the potential to be like as fundamental as that. That won't be apparent in the first few years because it'll be mostly used for gaming and stuff.
Yeah.
And which is going to be a massive deal. And once it's like commonly accepted into the gaming world, beyond just like early adopters and stuff, then
price comes down and stuff.
Yeah, price comes down. It will already seem like a huge like technological like jump forward, and that's going to stick. I mean, the experience of it is so good.
Yeah. That's not
that's not in question. Like it is the next generation of gaming. It's going to be VR. Absolutely.
Or at least like it's not going away. There may be you may still play games on 2D screens, sure.
Yeah.
But that VR headsets are now going to be around.
Yeah.
Like things like
it's not just like
it's not a fad like the things like the PlayStation Move and the Wiimote and those sort of things that the Kinect and those kinds of things that sounded cool but were shit.
Yeah.
Because in practice, when you actually use them, they were a bit shit.
Yeah.
But when I've used the VR stuff, I've not.
I do not get that feeling about it at all.
No,
like,
it feels like
the
it's
Kinect
ready
and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, there's a bit of fun for like 5 minutes, and then it's like, this is a bit shit. Whereas that, like, when they told me to leave, I was like, no, I need like at least another 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just to really start getting the feel for it.
But you can. Well, I got the feeling that when I used it, that yes, it's going to be something that's going to stick around for gamers, and it's going to be. That's not going anywhere, and it's just going to be a really cool new way to have interactive experiences. But it to me, it's not. That's the sort of minor side of what VR is probably going to be.
Because for it to be as fundamental a change as the TV, it needs to expand beyond the world of gaming, and it will. It will, I think. Maybe not in the next like 5 years, or maybe.
I think in the next 5 years it will be. Well, I mean, it will. You'll start seeing it. I don't know how long it took.
5 years from now,
you're starting to see it really start.
Very common for gamers. Very common, and you'll probably start to see applications of it that are like seriously used by people outside of gaming.
For all sorts of things.
Yeah,
like we talked about them before in a previous episode, but particularly things like communicating with people. You know, like you can go and sit with your family on the other side of the world in the same room, that type of stuff. Yeah. If you can get the whole person in with using like cameras and stuff.
And design.
And design and architecture and all these things.
There's a bunch of stuff. Like near-term stuff.
It is as the kind of internet was and the TV was in a way. It's just it's us introverting into like the digital realm basically.
Yes.
And it's it's the change of feeling like you're watching the digital realm to feeling like you're being in the digital world.
Yeah.
Like actually in a different place.
Yeah.
And I think that change is only going to be slowly. It's only apparent to people who have used it, and you can't really describe quite how it feels, quite how good it is by just talking about it. You need to go and use them.
Yeah.
But because some people think it's going to be like a fad, just a fad.
Yeah, I think
just like a.
Some people do assume that it's just not going to be very good, although it might be a bit like, oh, this is kind of interesting or like a bit novel, but not like actually like holy shit, like I feel like I'm in this game.
Yeah.
Like I'm holding a gun. I am holding a gun and shooting at things in this game. Like it's real. It's real. I'm not just watching it. I'm doing it.
And if you can feel like that in a game, and you can feel like that in tons of different situations, it's very transportative.
Yeah.
So I think it's here to stay, and I think it's going to be a lot bigger than just games.
Definitely. This is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So have I made a mistake by pre-ordering the Oculus? Should I have got the Vive Mark?
Well, I mean, I haven't tried the Oculus, so I have no idea.
Yeah,
really.
That's true.
I have no like direct comparison.
Well,
and I'm sure you made an informed choice anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Like
you were loving.
I was loving it, and if I had the cash, I would have been like, take my money, because I just wanted to keep playing with it.
Yeah. So you think the room scale thing is obviously.
That was a big part of what made it good.
Yes. Yeah. Needs space for that, of course.
But for that game though, like that's the thing. Like it will depend on what you do with it. And I know like obviously the Oculus isn't going to come with like the room scale aspect out of the box.
Not out of the box.
But you can buy like the touch thing.
This
will make it kind of room scale. I have no idea if that's going to compare in terms of how great the tracking was with the Vive.
Yeah. So this is the thing. This is why I think I'm kind of still happy with my choice.
Yeah.
Is that everyone's been saying that the Vive does have this room scale thing, and that makes it more immersive. That makes it more wow factor than the Oculus. But when the touch comes out, which is going to be like over the summer, it's supposed to be in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not be quite the same tracking area as the Vive. I'm not actually sure, and no one seems to know.
Right.
Or they haven't released any information exactly how big the area will be. But based on some YouTube videos and looking at how big the tracking area is for the Constellation sensor that comes with the Oculus, just one of them, it's massive. It's really quite big. If you had, and when you buy Touch, it comes with a second one.
Yeah.
So you'll have, I presume, like quite a big area to move around in using the Oculus.
Yeah.
The touch controllers apparently are slightly. You feel like your hands are slightly more in. They're slightly more comfortable, a bit more ergonomic, kind of a bit better for feeling like your hands are in VR than the Vive controllers.
The Vive ones are pretty good. So that's great.
Yeah, they're just a bit more. It feels like you're pinching and picking up stuff. Whereas the Vive things feel like you're holding a wand with a trigger.
It does. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Which I again, I haven't used the touch. Yeah. But this is just what I've been told by other people. So it seems like if you can do room scale with the Oculus, essentially you will be able to in the second half of the year. And everyone almost unanimously says the headset is better for the Oculus.
Yes.
Then I sort of don't really know where I'm going wrong by getting the Oculus.
Yeah. I mean,
the only thing is that they don't have, obviously there's no chaperone system. So this chaperone system is a thing in the Vive that. Did you try that, by the way? You get to the edges and you see the.
Yes, sorry. Yes. Yeah, that was really, really useful. Otherwise, I would have been crashing into the walls constantly.
So whether presumably Oculus is going to bring out a solution for that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that has to require some new hardware where you have to. They'll give you like 4 base station things that you put out, and the cameras know where they are, and it generates like digital walls around them, maybe something like that. Or you don't need that at all, and you just walk like you do with the Vive to set it up. You walk around. And, and then it maps where that area you've walked around in the calibration start like setup.
I actually didn't think much about that. I kind of just assumed. I think I might have just assumed it using the front facing camera for that.
No, I don't think so. No, I think you mean to set up where the edges of the walls are.
Yeah, that can't work.
No, it doesn't. No, it's to do with the laser positioning. So you set that up to start with where your wall is. So you can change it for different rooms. And stuff. Yeah, so I presume they might be able to do something similar to Oculus. But to do room scale, you need that chaperone system, it sounds like. So I presume Oculus is maybe a bit of a risk, but Oculus should have a solution for it.
You'd imagine so.
They don't have the front-facing camera, though.
Like that playing that game, and other games like it, where you actually are roaming around the room scale stuff. And I was moving quickly as well. I was moving fast around that room.
Did you lie on the floor?
Not properly. I kind of crouched down a few times and I ducked and stuff, but no, I didn't lie down. That would be interesting. But yeah, like if it wasn't for that chaperone system, I would have been bouncing off the walls. Literally.
Okay. So Oculus need to have.
Yeah. So I guess the question of like whether
sort of depends on what they release.
Depends on the room scale aspect of the Oculus and how good that is compared to the room scale Vive. And if it is as good or even nearly as good, then like the fact that the screen door effect a lot better,
slightly less,
all that kind of stuff for the Oculus,
a bit more comfortable,
and the fact that it's slightly cheaper. I mean, the headset itself is way cheaper, but then obviously out of the box you get more from the Vive.
Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, the Touch might make it the same price as the Vive.
Roughly, probably. Yeah.
It might do. I don't really know how expensive that's going to be.
But anyway, so it does seem like Oculus is even though I haven't tried it.
No.
Could potentially just seems like a bit of like an upgrade.
Just slight, maybe.
But anyway,
we don't know because we'll see what they release with Touch. So we don't know that yet. But that's my thoughts. That's what I think. I think I've probably made the right choice.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've had a similar experience to the other people who've used Vive that basically just say that room scale VR is fucking good.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
Right. That's enough VR.
Yes.
Let's move on. Let's
do it.
So today we're going to talk about electric cars. And whether the internal combustion engine is it on the way out?
Yeah, and so are electric cars the future, basically?
Yeah.
Since we love talking about the future,
we can't get enough of the future.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
So obviously, almost all the cars we have at the moment are internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Most of them are petrol. Some are diesel. There's a few that are hybrids now.
Yeah.
Which has a small electric motor in. But electric motors have been around for like ages. I can't remember how old they are. They're really old though.
Yeah. Electric vehicles like
a super. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like crappy old vehicles like milk floats in the UK.
Right. If you don't know what a milk float is. I presume they don't have milk floats in like.
Look it up for a start.
Yeah,
they're hilarious.
It's a funny looking little thing.
It's like so. It's not really a thing. It might be a thing in like little villages out in the rural kind of countryside.
It's disappeared nowadays because everyone just gets. Well, I mean, more or less everyone gets their milk from the supermarket. Yeah. It used to be a thing.
I bet there are places where you can still get milk delivered.
Yeah. But it used to be for some reason a delivery system where a man would come
around.
Bizarre
thing, isn't it? Really?
A specialist in milk delivery would come around with a little electric milk
delivering milk.
Delivery vehicle.
Just milk and like butter and stuff. Sometimes.
Yeah, dairy.
Like
products.
these little, like
sometimes
milk in
milkshake.
these little glass bottles.
Yeah, real nice glass
with like a foil lid.
Yeah.
Like there's something really satisfying.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Like pushing that lid off. Yeah.
And for some reason in the UK that was a thing for many years.
I think actually it's probably because people didn't used to have fridges.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But then people did have fridges, and then it kept going. Because I remember this happening when I was a kid. Like we used to have milk delivered when I was a kid.
We never actually had milk delivered at my house, but neighbours did.
My parents stopped having it done because drunk people would drink it.
Yeah,
at night.
I know. I remember hearing people doing that. They used to call it milking.
Yeah,
they'd go out milking and go and drink milk. What the hell? Stupid teenagers.
From the front door of people's houses.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, they leave out chocolate milk and strawberry milk and stuff.
That's amazing.
So it's a bonanza for drunk 15-year-olds. Yeah. Ridiculous. But yeah, that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, they were like little kind of trundly vehicles.
They were weird.
Like max speed of like 10 miles an hour.
Yeah. But yeah, there was obviously there's some electric transport that we talk about. Trams and stuff's been around for a while. And electric trains and these types of things. But in terms of cars, there was that G-Whiz thing.
Oh yeah.
What was the other name for it? I can't remember. It had an American name. It began with R.
Right.
And
was it Reva I or something?
Yeah, something like that.
REVAI.
And that was a piece of shit.
Oh god, it was so fucking ugly.
It looked. Someone I know described it as looking like an inbred car. It looked inbred. It looked like it had been generations of being inbred and had like a really square, like kind of boxy, poorly formed look. Like it's just not a healthy looking vehicle.
Yeah.
It was a horrible little thing.
Car without
I don't think it was very safe. It was really unsafe. Obviously, it was for like small city driving, like smart car type region. It was a really tiny vehicle.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. It was
ugly
tiny.
as shit.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But those kinds of cars,
it's
like a very short range, like 30 years. I don't know.
It's like it looked like the inbred sort of cousin of the smart car, basically.
Yes. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
The one that gets locked up in the attic and no one ever talks about.
Yeah. It was a horrible little thing. But I mean, I suppose it was. Did it do anything positive? Like the one thing with those older electric vehicles is they showed that people were gonna, they would be around on the road. Just a bit of notification that electric vehicles are an alternative. But they gave them a bad name in the sense that
the thing.
A bad image, that they were sort of like a geeky kind of bad range, small city going cars that weren't in any way equivalent to a car that with an internal combustion engine. Yeah. And that they never could be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For ages, like until very recently, that's what people's kind of opinion of electric cars has been. It's just been like they're crap. They're just like they can't compete with like modern internal combustion engine cars. There's just no way.
I mean, things like the Prius though, which is a hybrid. Obviously,
it's been around for a long time.
It's been around for a while. That's done pretty well.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of people have, again, that had a bit of an image problem at the start. I mean, a lot of celebrities bought Priuses to start with. And it kind of became a thing like that South Park episode where they were really smug about it.
Oh, thanks. Like talking with the eyes closed all the time. Yeah.
But I think those have become more common. I've seen them a lot. A lot of Uber drivers have them. Priuses,
right. Yeah.
Because
I mean, hybrids. I mean, obviously. Priuses are far from nearly hybrids. There's those shitloads of hybrids.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was, I guess, around the time.
But that's like quite a popular. Like hybrid, obviously, but that's a popular car with an electric motor. It was kind of a statement
in a way because it was around the time that like global warming, climate change started to be like really in the public perception, in public consciousness, and having something like that, because Priuses especially were very like distinctive.
Yes, they look quite
distinct. Okay, I care about climate change because I have a Prius.
Yes, I've spent money. I have a Prius. Yeah. They're quite expensive to start. Yeah. They're quite cheap to run. But.
Yeah. So. But that's the thing, like.
But that's all they were.
That's all they were, and despite the image that electric cars did have, even though it was getting better through like hybrids and stuff, that nobody ever really thought that electric cars could replace internal combustion engine cars.
Or they thought it would be a long time away.
Yes, but the thing is, that's sort of crucial. It's sort of necessary for that to happen because burning.
What do you mean
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's crucial for us to stop using internal combustion engine cars in the long term. Because, well, for like many reasons,
eventually we'll run out of fuel.
Eventually we'll run out of fuel for a start. And then what we're going to do? Just walk
although
everywhere.
everyone said, there's always kind of a number put on how long it's going to be until we run out of fossil fuels, but that number is like almost ever receding. Like, we always find new ways to kind of dig oil up and find new reservoirs of oil. So there's a lot more oil than most people would think.
Yeah, sure.
A lot longer period of time.
So it's finite, but hitting that barrier is probably
further away than you might expect.
Very far away.
Yeah.
However, that's not the only reason you don't want to be burning fossil fuels.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, because it's changing the chemistry of the atmosphere, which is doing some pretty crazy things to the planet.
It's not ideal.
No. It's getting a lot worse, like over the last few decades and stuff.
Yeah,
it's like
and also it's a bad pollutant for just bad noxious gases. I mean, like, you look at pollution in places, loads of big cities, they frequently go way over safe air limits that are set by things like the EU and stuff. London goes over it all the time. It used to like its pollution allowance in like 3 days for a year or something ridiculous, and that's just from internal combustion engines largely. So you want to get rid of them.
But to do that, you can't just force people to do it. Nope. You can't just say like, okay, now everyone's got to start doing this. I guess you could change the law, but that would be a bit weird.
Well, you'd also have to present a solution that kept the economy, kept society running as efficiently.
Yeah.
And maybe we now have some electric cars that could do that. But it's been a long time coming. I mean, people suggested things like hydrogen for a while. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Hydrogen fuel cells as a kind of way to...
Well, both hydrogen internal combustion as was one thing, and hydrogen fuel cells as well.
Yes, yeah. So what do you mean? What, hydrogen?
Just literally using it in an internal combustion engine. So burning hydrogen.
Oh yes, yeah.
Instead of petrol or like
yes, like go up to the pump and fill it up with hydrogen.
Yes, exactly.
But that seems to be like a bad idea for many reasons.
Yeah.
I mean,
for similar reasons that the
it's cleaner to burn.
Yeah, it's cleaner to burn. The waste is water.
Yeah, so it's like a zero emissions, providing your energy, because you've got electrolyzed water, so your energy that you do that with has to come from a clean source.
Yeah,
but obviously,
which is the same problem with the hydrogen fuel cells as well. Really, like you have to use energy to hydrolyze water, and then you have to use energy to compress hydrogen into tanks, and then you have to use that hydrogen to then generate electricity. It's like, well, like. Just don't do all the middle stuff. Just use electricity.
Yeah. So that's the argument. The argument is that some people don't like basically hydrogen fuel cells or hydrogen. Actually, it makes very little sense to use hydrogen in place of battery technology because if you can fill a car up with hydrogen, it means you've used so much electricity beforehand to get to that hydrogen. Also, the hydrogen is really like easy to get. It's very, very explosive. It leaks out very easily. It's totally undetectable when it leaks. I think they'd probably have to put like tracers on it, like gas, like natural gas has tracers. You can smell it. I imagine they'd have to do something similar with hydrogen because it's like a pernicious molecule. It gets everywhere.
And once it's at like 2% in the air, it's like explosive basically. Yeah, it's explosive over a huge range. Like you could go from like 2% up to like 99% hydrogen, and as long as you have that 1% oxygen, it will still explode. So it's like It's just it's a dangerous gas. Yeah. It's not something you want to be filling cars up with, really. No.
Although of course petrol's hardly.
Petrol's also, but it's a liquid. That's the thing.
Yes,
it's a liquid at
it's
like
easier to contain.
Ambient pressures.
It's much easier to contain.
Whereas hydrogen is going to expand like a bitch if it gets a leak in the tank. Just fill your car. Yeah. Real quick.
So instead, what happened? It is largely thanks to Tesla, isn't it? Really,
pretty much. Well, I mean, I'm sure people would like the ins and outs of it. Like if you know the industry really, really well, there might be other factors, but like it does certainly seem like Tesla have been the driving force behind like spurring all the big companies into motion and basically showing us early on, like a fair few years ago now, with the Roadster, that you could make an absolutely like bossing electric car.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That was their idea, right? To start with, was let's make an electric car that's they did it for multiple reasons, to make an electric car that's attractive and get people excited about electric cars and show that they're not just crappy, boring kind of, no range, can't compete with a proper car. Yeah. So they built a sports car, which was the Roadster, but they also did that because they're a small company, and a small company has to make a low volume product with a high price. Yeah. So the Roadster fits that bill. That's the type of car you have to make to start with. Yeah. So that apparently, I mean, I've heard people talk about how that spurred on the people like Nissan to start developing the Leaf, spurred on Chevy to start developing the Bolt. That they start even with the early Roadster, which by all accounts was a good but not a great car.
No, certainly not. No,
it was good for what they had built with the resources they had and stuff. But it was kind of just a sort of modded out sort of Lotus Elise, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was good fun to drive and stuff, but was by no means perfect.
But it did suddenly show, like, okay, here's what could happen. Like you could look at that and see where it could lead.
Yeah.
With electric cars, which is something that hadn't been done before to anywhere near that extent.
No. So the Roadster was released in like 2008. So just after that, I think it was like 2010, something like that. The Leaf came out.
2010,
which was, I think it's got the Roadster had something like 250 miles range or something like that, like around there. So it's pretty big.
Yeah,
it's about the same as the more recent Teslas. And I think the Leaf's got slightly less, which is like 120.
Something, yeah. That's pretty. I mean, that's still decent.
Yeah, it's still good.
It depends on what you use it for, I guess. But
and at that time, I think Chevy started developing the Volt as well.
Yeah,
began the program.
Yeah, well, that's
looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of the reason that Tesla like started. If you look at like Elon Musk and Tesla's like explicit goal was to like accelerate the transition to sustainable transport.
Yes,
which by getting the big car companies to start producing electric cars, they're basically doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
If you take the what Tesla did as the catalyst for those cars, which it probably was.
I think that was I don't know. The only reason I'm slightly hesitant to say that is because I don't know what the general opinion in the auto industry is.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of what I meant before.
Yes, yeah. But from everything I've heard, and obviously everything Tesla and the way it seems to have played out, it seems like they were the ones that did almost all of that. That there was going to be a move to it, but they basically sort of cut a path through and showed people a way to do it. Yeah. They're for example, there's reasons. You could be very cynical and say that they're just saying that, and it's kind of like a marketing thing in a way to market the company. But they've made all their patents open source. Like they don't, everything. The way that they bundle money into research and testing. Don't pay dividends to their shareholders. All these types of things. From the very start. I mean, basically the reason that I don't think there's a reason to be cynical or skeptical about that goal is because Elon Musk could have gone off and had like invested money in much less risky things than Tesla.
Yeah, if he wanted to make money,
if he wanted to just make money, setting up a new electric American car company with a new technology which hadn't been done for like 100 years. Just a new car company was a mental idea anyway. Let alone an electric car company. It's like that's not the best way to make loads more money back. That's not the way you would have done that having not known where you were before.
But that's the great thing about that statement.
So I absolutely believe that that's what they're genuinely trying to do.
Same, absolutely. Like Elon had already sort of shown that he could make a load of money, like with PayPal and stuff before. If that's what he wanted to do, he would have been smart. He'd pursue something purely for business reasons.
Yeah.
So but that's the great thing about that statement is that it kind of works as a marketing slogan.
It does,
as well as being true.
Yes,
like that's the great thing about it.
Yeah, it's a totally different way to look at business. It makes the company seem very
attractive, and it's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So moving on from there, like we're talking about Tesla because obviously they are like one of the biggest players in electric cars. But
they are the biggest, undoubtedly the biggest.
So moving on from there, like their next like big release, the Model S.
Yeah.
Which it's followed up after the Nissan Leaf like a couple of years later.
Yeah, it's like 2012 or 11 or something like that.
Yeah. And it was an absolute beast.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the realization of what that they were saying, what Tesla was saying before, is that an electric car, to sell an electric car to people, it's not that it has to, you don't just tell, the only way to get people to really change their habits is not to tell them it's better for the planet, it's better for whatever. You have to make a better product than the thing that existed before, because people don't give a shit. Like you can, a vegetarian can tell, or a vegan can tell everyone that they shouldn't eat meat because it's evil and stuff, but no one's going to stop, no more really.
Like a small percentage of people, but you're never going to get like
you're never going to get a mass change. You're never going to do it unless you make a better than meat substitute. If you can lab grow meat
that's better than meat,
or as good
you
as
get from animals,
then like people will change.
It potentially has to be better rather than just as good as.
Potentially.
So it's the same thing.
It's the same thing with the electric cars. That's the best way to get people to change. And basically, the Model S was proof that Tesla possible. Believed that you could make a better car than an internal combustion engine car with an electric setup. And I mean, I've never driven one, and I've never been in one. I've seen one; they're very nice looking.
I'd absolutely love to drive one.
Same. Bloody hell, they're fast. I've probably scared the crap out of myself.
Yeah, there's some hilarious videos of people driving.
From everyone who seems to have reviewed it, things like Consumer Reports and stuff, were blown away by how good it is.
Not just compared to electric cars, but compared to like just any car.
That people saying it's the best car they've ever driven.
Yeah,
which is like amazing for an electric car.
Yeah,
you know, that's their second car. Yeah. I mean, there were some parts of it I think that people were saying, you know, that the interior was a bit dodgy at the start, and it wasn't that nice. It was a bit plain, and the seats weren't that comfortable. I'm not actually sure. You know, I've never sat in them. I had any experience myself. But in terms of driving the car, in terms of all the gizmos and gadgets on it, they're very up for doing all sorts of like autopilot, pushing the car technology of cars forward. Just everything about it, the way it all runs, the fact it's got this like big iPad thing in it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The central console is just a screen.
It's just a screen, which means that they can update it, like centrally update all their cars. All the like software in their cars, and they do. Yeah, frequently. The performance of it is ridiculously high performance. There's 0 to 60 on the fastest one, which is ludicrous mode. Because insane mode was the one before. Yeah, it's 2.8 seconds from 0 to 60, which is like hypercar fast. It's ridiculous.
And you know, and also you can have there's so much space in it because it's an electric car. It's got a pretty long wheelbase. There's I think they call it a frunk, like a boot in the front.
The front is just
it's just empty. There's no engine.
Empty space.
Yeah. And the back's obviously got no space. So the engine's just basically built into the wheelbase.
You could load it up with like almost as much stuff as you can get in a small transit van.
There's the drive shaft that runs down the middle of those cars normally. You know, where it has that big ridge in the middle. That doesn't exist. It's all flat bottomed. And you can even have 2 extra seats be put in the back of the Model S, so it can take 7 people. That's mental.
It's mental.
So
a car that does 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Which obviously wouldn't do that if you fully loaded it. Yeah. But you could take 7 people in
that model of car. Is also able to be that user friendly and have that much space in it, and
it's just so much better than just like head and shoulders above like almost any other car.
You certainly and also it's got a range of like 300 and something. I think the highest one, the 90 kilowatt one, 300 and something.
Miles
range
or kilometers?
Don't remember.
That's a lot. I didn't realize it was that high.
I think it's getting to 300.
That's mad. That's
pretty sure.
But I mean, you have all the supercharger network as well.
Well, yeah. So there's free charging for the life of the car. This is not like a Tesla sales thing.
This is why I said earlier, like we're talking about Tesla because.
Yeah, but this is. I mean, it was. I was when I started understanding like what the Model S was. I couldn't believe it because you suddenly realise
it's ridiculous.
I was about to say it's free charging for the lifetime of the car, and it can charge like in 20 minutes or something on these superchargers to put like 150, 200 miles of range in it or something like that. And you just suddenly realise like it obviously makes sense to go electric. Like there's so many more advantages than just saving the planet, which seems like a nebulous thing to most people. Yeah, like it's just a better way of building a car. Yeah, not for every situation. I think there are still going to be things like where you need exceptionally long range and maybe in things like if you're going out into like a desert expedition, you probably want old school internal combustion engine cars.
At least until there's like a revolution in battery technology.
Yes, yeah. But for city driving, for most motorway driving, for most situations really in which you find yourself in a car using in a day-to-day life, it like just makes total sense to go electric. It's suddenly like, oh, that was obviously the way that we should be doing it, and everyone has suddenly started realizing. That's why Tesla's valuation, which might be quite high, overinflated, some people say, but whatever where it's at now is something. It's like 30. It's worth 30 trillion. 30 trillion.
30 trillion.
30 billion or something like that. I can't remember their market cap is. But it's worth the same amount as like Toyota or something ridiculous like that. Or Honda.
Yeah.
Close.
That's insane.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Considering they only produce... Well, they produce 2 types of car now. The S and the X. But...
They have to ramp up their production massively.
The reason everyone suddenly started taking notice of this is because the car is so good.
Yeah.
And their marketing is obviously very good as well.
Yeah.
And everyone sees it as like it's not only it's now cool to have a Tesla. It's cool to have an electric car.
Yeah.
But it's not cool in the Prius way where it's like, I'm going to save the planet. It's like, I've got a fucking fast car.
Yeah, I've got a badass car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not pretentious and kind of like hypercar-y, kind of overcompensating type.
No, it's not. It's like a perfect balance between like practical and badass.
Yeah.
Right down that line.
And it's got that, and it is like a nerd box as well if you're into that sort of stuff.
It's a piece of tech, as we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
in the
tech shows are reviewing it like an iPhone.
Exactly. Yeah, the user interface is like really, really futuristic and cool. It's really, really nice, and it's certainly like in most of the regions of the world, the most population dense regions of the world, using this kind of transport makes more sense than combustion engines.
Yeah. The only thing that's prohibitive really is the cost, because they are slightly more expensive at the moment.
Yes,
that will come down though.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of their third stage of their.
Yeah, so the Model S is expensive. I think it starts at like $60,000.
Oh, I think more.
I think the most basic one might be $60,000,
which is 70, I think.
Is it? So the Model X is what, like a 4x4 version of the Model S sort of thing.
Kind of, like sort of like an SUV type, big.
Just a bit more space. S. It's got those fancy Falcon wing doors and whatnot in it,
which are cool.
Which are really cool.
Yeah, and the full glass roof, which I don't think the Model S has.
No, I don't think it does. I
like a lot. Yeah, that's very nice. The Model 3 has that as well, though.
Yeah, which is their most recent one, which people have seen in the news a little bit.
Yeah, very recently.
And that is
like that's kind of like their main event, really.
Yeah, that's always what they're aiming towards. I think that might.
They had to do like the Roadster, the Model S, and the Model X. Well,
it's like a pyramid shape thing.
Exactly.
Small, like high price, small production, mid range. Mid production, quite a high price still.
Show the world what electric cars can be, and what the infrastructure for electric cars can be, and like how they could be used as an alternative mode of transport.
Yeah.
And then like bring in the mass produced, cheap, affordable.
Starting to get affordable now.
Yeah.
So how much is it going to be?
Like I think $35,000 starting the base rate, which works out as like $20-something thousand.
Okay.
Which, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but like that's pretty affordable. Like that compares closely with like that's very competitive for like that size car and like that type of car. Like the niche that it's filling, that's a very, very competitive price.
Yeah, it is. And I mean the Model 3 is basically, it's a bit smaller than the Model S, isn't it? We don't know much about the Model 3 at the moment.
Well, they did that launch the other day, which is like
it will have like a decent range. It'll have like 200 and something mile range.
Yeah.
215 miles or something like that. I think they said minimum.
Yeah.
0 to 60 in like just under 6 seconds, which is really fast for just a family car.
Like a little,
and this is I think they had
all the supercharger networks and all that kind of stuff, like.
And all the space you'll get from it, and the fact that it's going to have all these, autopilot features, all the kind of extra things that comes with the Teslas, means that there's a huge amount of people that have pre-ordered them.
Yeah, it's insane.
So the Nissan Leaf, sold like 200,000 vehicles or something in its first 5 years.
I already know the numbers for the Model 3.
Well,
so
yeah, and the Model 3 was. It was like 270 or nearly 300,000 or something, or pre-orders in the first weekend, the first 3 days.
Yeah, like in the first hour, it was up to like 130,000,
which is insane. That's like, and people were queuing outside Tesla garages to go and order them, like it's like an iPhone launch or something.
Yeah, it's exactly what it seemed like it was. Even though it's not even going to be on the streets until at best end of 2017, probably later.
Well, Elon Musk was saying about how he's gonna.
The Model X hasn't even started shipping yet. So.
I know.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have trouble producing that many cars.
Yes, they definitely are. They're aiming for something like 500,000 a year, aren't they?
That's what they're aiming for, yeah. And they're building this gigafactory thing to help produce the batteries, which is one of the reasons you can get it cheap. Yeah. You have a scale of economy and mass manufacturing techniques and stuff. You can reduce the cost of producing batteries. But I mean, to get to that number, they are going to struggle with production. Yeah, like that's a significant challenge for Tesla.
Yeah,
because they produce something like, I don't know, like 50,000 cars a year or something like that at the moment. Not even. Do they even produce that? I'm gonna look that up.
I have no idea. I think the past year, 2015, was the most cars they've ever produced in a year.
Yeah. I think that's true.
I think they reckon that their manufacturing plant, wherever it is in California, can do 500,000 in a year. But
do 500,000.
They reckon the absolute maximum, if they push it, they can do that. Batteries are a bottleneck, but the gigafactory will sort that out. That gigafactory is fucking ridiculous, by the way. Have you seen pictures of it recently?
Yeah, it's some parts of it are operational now.
Yeah,
like, it's actually functioning.
That's what I'm saying. Have you seen it just last time I saw it? It
was like a
couple of years ago. It was just like a
or a clearing,
like a frame.
Yeah.
And now it's a building.
They've filled it in.
It doubles the world's production of lithium-ion batteries.
They went in with Panasonic on it, didn't they? Was it Panasonic? I think Panasonic.
Oh, really?
Have like help fund part of it or something. It's like a joint venture between.
Well, that's what they need. They need a big injection of cash so that they can get their production rates up.
Yes,
like
a big and injection. They're burning through cash like crazy. Tesla. Yeah, just plugging it into R&D and production and setting up with this stuff.
So everything kind of rests on this Model 3.
Yeah,
getting it right, getting it made, getting it shipped and sold.
I did hear.
Otherwise, they'll crash and burn.
Yeah, and I did hear that Elon Musk was going to not be the CEO once they'd sorted out the Model 3.
Really?
He said that he might step down as CEO.
I mean, he's a busy man.
Post Model 3.
Fair enough.
Because he felt like that would be, if that all went like successfully, that he had kind of set them on their way.
Yeah.
And obviously he's had time to recruit very, very good people to fill in, like, you know, all the bases below him and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I would have time to find someone very good to run the company.
Yeah, so he can focus on SpaceX.
SpaceX or God knows like what other awesome thing he's going to start doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Model 3 Lon. That'll be his legacy.
The 3 Lon.
The 3 Lon. Should definitely call it that. So as long as they are still around in a few years and their production rates production rates do manage to get up, I really, really want to get a Model 3.
Yeah.
Like that's my car. I'm looking at it thinking that's my car.
That's your first car?
Yeah, I think my parents.
Have you owned a car before? You've like bought your own car? Have you just driven? Because I've just been insured on like parents' cars.
Exactly.
And stuff.
Yeah,
I've never had to buy my own car just because where I've lived has always been
like here,
walking or whatever.
Here's like just walkable.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So I don't need a car.
Yeah. So I mean, a car makes no sense living in this city.
No.
But yeah, like I want one. I want a Model 3.
I wonder how good they are, sort of second hand. Like battery technology is probably the batteries obviously are going to die off after a certain number of charges.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that
I don't know if there's much market for second hand sort of Model S's and stuff. I imagine most people haven't sold them yet.
Yeah. I don't know how much life there is in those batteries, though. I mean,
obviously you can just replace the battery.
Yeah, so that's.
But that's like most of the like a big portion of the cost of the car is the battery. So it's not going to be something cheap to just switch in and out.
That's a good point. Yeah, well, I don't know if there's much of a market for it yet, but I hope that we might be finding out in the next few years.
It's 50,000, by the way. Cars they produced last year, 50. So I did get it right. So that's a big increase.
That is a 10 times increase they're going to have to ramp up to start producing enough cars to meet the demand. I mean, they've got their work cut out.
It's going to be tight.
But
back onto the used car thing. I mean, that is interesting. Thinking about how that might work. I mean, it's obviously not putting people off at the moment.
Because a good internal combustion engine car has a long lifetime.
Yes, especially, I mean, frankly, the more electronics they put in them, the less lifetime they tend to have because they're much harder to repair. And any bits that go out of date, because there's so many bits, and they become legacy faster, electric parts, than the old internal combustion engines. They tend to be harder to repair, and less people are able to repair and more expensive to repair and stuff. Yeah. Like my parents had cars, you know, we had a Volvo for just like, I don't know, 19, 20 years, and it was and it was totally fine. It had like a couple of bits replaced. It didn't have barely any electronics in it at all.
My parents have got a car that has been going for absolutely ages, and like it's got, I can't remember how many miles it's on the clock, but ridiculous number.
Yeah,
like 120 something thousand or more.
Yeah,
and it's still just going strong.
Yeah,
fine.
The only things that it had to have replaced, this Volvo's like the things you have to get replaced, plus one part of the exhaust, and that was it.
Yeah, they're built to last. But the thing is,
there's no reason why an electric car wouldn't be the same.
Yes, that's true.
Except for the battery will eventually die.
Yes, but they are very expensive. Maybe if there was maybe there's just a way of like thinking about cars. Maybe they could be recycled in a way.
Yeah,
and that you would just accept that, you get a new car more frequently than you would.
I think though, the thing is though, if you're using a Tesla or any other electric car and it lasts, I have absolutely no idea, but say it lasts 10 years.
Yeah.
Like in 10 years' time, batteries are not going to be as expensive.
No, that's very true.
They're going to be coming down in price much faster.
And in 10 years' time, people might not really own cars anyway, but we can talk about that.
Yes.
Another time.
There's another episode. So maybe the fact that technology is moving quite quickly, that would mean that swapping out a battery in a electric car is actually not eventually when you have to do it, it's not that expensive.
Yeah. Especially if there's a revolution in battery technology, as I've said before.
I mean, that's a big part of electric cars the battery technology is going to be so crucial to the future of electric cars. Like, battery technology is so crucial to so many things at the moment. Like, almost all the electronics we use, mobile phones, laptops, there's some things like TVs and desktops which obviously don't need batteries. Electric cars, I mean, if you want to make electric jets and these types of things,
any kind of electric vehicle,
battery technology is so important. And we've had lithium ion. I mean, there's been lots of changes in lithium ion.
And making it more efficient.
Tesla have been really good at making breakthroughs in how to kind of stack out your different battery cells and how to run them and how to do it efficiently and all these types of things and all their patents.
But it is essentially the same technology that's been kicking around for a long time.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, everyone's obviously going to expect at some point a big jump in battery technology. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows anything. I don't know anything about that. I think there's some talk about like
very resistant
quantum dot whatever stuff.
Sure,
but there's nothing practically.
You'd assume that it will happen at some point. It must do.
Yeah, but I think actually I was listening to something Elon Musk was talking about batteries, and he said that they get a lot of promises from people or various companies and things that say, we've got a new battery technology, it's revolutionary, and he always gets them, they say just send it in and we'll look at it, and they're never as good as the lithium ion batteries that they had before. So at the moment that's something that is workable with electric cars, but if you could improve that, electric cars would be just even more attractive.
Yeah. What you want is an order of magnitude like improvement.
Yeah, in charging time and capacity.
Yeah, so you want to be able to, like with your smartphone, have to charge it like once a month or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
And same with a car, if you could get to that level, that would make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Especially on age of the battery as well, like lifetime of the battery.
Yeah.
If it extended that, but I mean it's just all sci-fi at the moment.
Yeah. I mean there are ways you could charge batteries that are maybe a bit more like useful on the things like, I mean we talked about superchargers, which helps charge them. Yeah. But you could do that's not very, it's very inefficient I think, but like induction charging as you're driving.
Yeah. So
you like change into like the induction lane. And one lane of the motorway has a part that the cars charge on basically, and you're allowed to spend a certain amount of time in that lane to charge your car. Yeah. And you probably pay through it for your taxes or something. It's just part of the infrastructure, part of the tax social contract that you pay anyway.
Yeah. So if you do a long journey, then maybe you can finish the journey with full battery.
Yeah.
If you drive for a significant part of the drive on the induction lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. It's going to be interesting with charging, because I think that even the superchargers, there've been issues I think in places like Holland and places like that where people aren't charging at home. Even people, so superchargers are kind of set up obviously for people who are doing long drives.
Yeah.
And are out of the range of like their home. So they need to use these things to do the multi-stage journeys.
And they're free.
So so that's the thing, that because they're free and because they're fast, people are, even though they live around the corner, are like
popping out to the supercharger
to use the superchargers. So they're mobbed, and there's just way too many people queuing up for them to use them. Even though there can't be that many people who own a Tesla in like somewhere in Holland, but the superchargers attract them. Like
flies
like
around shit.
Flies around shit. Yeah, exactly. So that is a bit. I think actually Tesla had to send out a message saying like, guys, please don't do that, because the whole point of the superchargers is that they're there for like long journeys. But then, you know, if you've supplied that infrastructure,
if you've said they're free,
they're free, exactly.
You can't stop.
They're not like a bit free.
Yeah,
or like,
unless they do supercharge. Well, that'd be a pain. But supercharging credits that they have on the software, they said the car won't charge itself if they use the supercharger too often or something like that.
Yeah,
they can probably tell from where the car is and where it's getting its. I'm sure that the Tesla factories will be.
If you're like within a certain range of your home, it knows where your home is.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, you're not allowed to use a supercharger. I don't know if that'll work, or they just need to build more superchargers.
But they need to build more superchargers, but of course they're going to be selling a lot more cars.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the two are going to be in a race with each other.
Yeah, yeah, and you can't build an infinite number of superchargers.
No.
There's probably always going to be more cars than there are superchargers.
Especially since they take 20 minutes to charge.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can put a lot of range into it in 20 minutes.
As you said, it's free. So at home, you're paying to charge
£3-4 to charge.
Yeah, it mounts up though over a long,
absolutely,
a while. So
yeah, I could see why people would do it. I probably would do it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's the other cool thing that Tesla released like last year, was it? Is that what am I saying? Powerwall thing.
Oh yeah.
Which is all about power storage.
Yeah.
At home, so you have like solar panels linked up to this giant like battery pack on the wall of your garage.
Yes.
In theory, and like you're just constantly storing power. So the solar panels are just always producing electricity and storing it in the Powerwall.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to use the grid. You don't have to pay for you have to pay a shitload for the Powerwall.
Yeah.
But once you have that, then you're no longer paying like electricity companies for
so that's
charging.
Trying to move people, I guess, to more localized kind of generating and charging at home, and not having the grid be so important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's definitely. I mean, that the Powerwall is basically just like almost the bottom of a Model S, just like drilled into the wall.
Pretty much.
Kind of, it's just a battery pack basically. Yeah. Isn't it? I don't know if it's got different. I think they have different capacities, lots that I don't know much about.
I think so, and I think actually you could run.
But it's the same technology. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So it's not just for charging your car.
No, not at all. No, I think it's mainly for storing energy for whatever purpose you want it for. I think. So another way they could charge electric cars, of course, I sort of forgot about, is we're talking about swapping batteries for second-hand cars, but you can also potentially swap out the battery of, like, say, a Model S or something. So I think they have fairly easily removable batteries.
So this is like on the go, right? So you just
it's just like a petrol garage. You sort of swing in, and they've got like a rack of charged batteries.
Just whack one in and
go.
And
you just get on this, drive your car onto this thing, which then raises it up. They change the battery.
Yeah.
And then you drive off.
Huh. Are they built with that in mind?
I think so, but I think they've had problems with trying to implement it. But they're certainly.
That sounds like a good idea.
It does sound like a good idea, but I think it's actually I think it's more tricky than they thought it would be. I'm not actually sure. I don't know that much about it, but that's maybe a way in the future in which you could speed up the whole charging thing.
Instead of having superchargers, you could just have these like unmanned stations.
Well, they'd probably, to make them cost effective, they might have to be unmanned. But then they'd have you need to do
just tons of them. I mean, maybe not instead of superchargers, but like wherever you have a supercharger, also have like a rack of like batteries that are constantly being charged, rather than a supercharger which is only being used when it's plugged into a car.
Yeah, I wonder if they have to wait for the Gigafactory or something to produce them, all these spare batteries. Or maybe. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, you need like 10 times as many batteries as you have cars or something ridiculous. So always be sure that you're gonna have batteries ready. But
certainly that's a way you could get round the charging thing.
Yeah. Then it takes like a second. Like imagine that. It's like you literally just drive onto like a platform, and you wouldn't even have to be raised up. But just underneath you would just go and just put in a battery, and then like take like 5 seconds or something, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Instead of having to wait 20 minutes.
One thing I was thinking though, with batteries, of course, people get worried about. I was reading that people are getting a bit worried about fires with batteries.
Right.
So like there's stories of laptops that sort of explode a bit with dodgy batteries in them. The batteries get fat and sometimes cause issues.
Sure.
And I was reading about how actually if you are worried about fires in cars, the best place to be in any car is an electric car.
Right.
Because
well, maybe because a combustion engine car is like full of explosives.
It is an explosive. It's literally
like
explosions happening in a contained environment.
Yeah,
it's full of incredibly flammable material. But because there were stories in the news, basically a Tesla had a big crash. It ended up doing something ridiculous, like flipping. They flipped the Tesla. It did loads of rolls. And everyone got out fine. And then like 5 minutes after that happened, and everyone was out. There was a small battery fire, and that was obviously the thing that got in the news. Oh my god!
I remember seeing pictures of that. Actually,
I think their stock price took a hit then. But according to
Teslas
stuff
aren't invincible.
But according to stuff I read, seemingly actually that's kind of a ridiculous thing to be worried about in a car that's much safer for fires. Than
I guess it will burn. Like if it's hot enough, the batteries will burn, but it's not going to explode like a petrol tank would.
No,
a petrol tank is a bomb. It just explodes.
Yeah, I mean, cars have, fires all the time, and a battery might have a fire, but they're going to be rarer.
It's not way more dangerous.
And obviously, the way that these electric car companies build the batteries is a very kind of fireproof method that's highly containable and stuff like that. But it's still something that people have talked about being worried about. But it's probably not really a problem. Yeah, it could be a problem, but there's no reason to be scared of it anymore. Certainly any more than an internal combustion engine.
It's interesting how people have these like resistances to new technologies like electric cars. Kind of mistrust them.
Yeah, sure. I guess it's something new that they.
It's like there must be something wrong with this. Like what's wrong with it? Like what is dangerous? Is it dangerous? It must be dangerous.
Yeah.
Like there's a kind of like almost like a desire to kind of find something.
Yes, I think it has to be better. Like you were saying earlier, it has to be a bit better. It has to meet higher standards than the stuff that's come before it to prove itself. Not be equally as good in certain areas. It has to basically be better in every area.
Yeah, because it's like why would we take this new thing which is a bit unknown versus this like thing that's got a heritage of loads of history and loads of like, we know how it works.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway. Yeah. Back to if you think about, I was going to think about more about the models of other cars then. That's coming out that might compete with Tesla.
Yes.
So we talked about the Model 3 coming out
end of next year,
and we talked about the Leaf and the Volt we mentioned briefly. But the Volt's probably going to be quite a close competitor to the Model 3.
The Volt's interesting. We spoke about it a bit, I think, when we talked about CES like a few months ago.
Oh, that's a good point. We did.
But yeah, it is interesting because it kind of has all the same specs as the Model 3, and it's coming out before. It's
got a similar range. It's probably not going to have all the. Well, I don't actually know, but I imagine it's not got all the gadgets and bits and bobs that the Tesla has. I don't know what's its acceleration like.
No, I don't know.
Most electric cars are quite good,
and they get all that power straight to the.
It's not as nice looking as a Tesla, that's for sure.
That's definitely visual.
But so they might have a serious competitor there. Also with someone like Chevy, they can produce cars
that's quickly. The thing. They will be able to churn out as many units as they get ordered, but they don't have a supercharger network.
They don't. No, that's a good point.
So either they build one, or they pay Tesla a shitload of money. Yeah. So that they can use theirs.
Well, I think Tesla have said they're happy for other people to use their superchargers as long as they contribute to the cost of setting them up. So if it became a barrier, then I imagine Chevrolet might.
I mean, that's a big deal. Like to someone, if you're looking at buying an electric car and you've got two electric cars which are very similar in terms of like their specs and stuff.
Yeah, and you're worried about charging.
One of them, like you're gonna have to find somewhere to plug in overnight and charge it for like hours. To get more than about 250 miles or whatever, and the other one you can charge every 250 miles. You just charge for 20 minutes and keep going. Yeah. Like which one are you going to choose? You're going to choose the one with the network, the infrastructure. So that's going to be I think that's going to be a big deal. But yeah, as you said, like Chevy will actually be able to produce the cars.
Yes. Which is maybe might be the biggest thing, is that people just can't get hold of the damn.
Yeah, they want one, and it sounds great, but where is it? Yeah. Can't get it.
I mean, I'm sure they'll have to Elon Musk was saying all over Twitter that they're going to have to rethink how they do this production. Yeah. Because it's so much more voluminous than they thought. Yeah. But they're not insurmountable goals. They're just going to have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Yeah, well, we'll see on that.
You get the feeling that working at somewhere like Tesla must be just a whirlwind of like, oh shit, like everything's it's like almost, it's just barely in control. Like the whole thing's just like snowballing, moving constantly.
So fast. Yeah.
They just can't quite keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it's pretty intense.
Pretty intense environment.
Very exciting, but very intense.
Yeah, definitely exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, future. So if you think about some of the stuff then that might kind of be battling with these the Tesla Model E and
3.
Yeah. The Model
3/E.
So they were originally going to go.
Why didn't they call it the E after?
Because Ford had a copyright on the Model E or something like that. So because they wanted it to have the S.
Model S, Model E, Model X,
and then the Model Y, which is presumably going to be some sort of like crossover type car. I think it's based on the Model 3.
Yeah, but even without the Y, you still have a nice like Model S, Model E, Model X.
Yeah, so they changed it to a 3.
Well, and the logo is basically an E still.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So it's still,
they're still going to be able to write "sexy" or "sex" all over the marketing, which is pretty good.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so that Model Y might come out, and that will be another type of electric car, probably like a small crossover type thing.
Yeah.
And then looking further ahead, in terms of let's think about Tesla themselves. They may, after the Model 3, look to produce more than just one type of car at once. They've talked about that before. So that could be anything from a new Roadster, which presumably will be mad fast because the Model S is faster than the Roadster, and if you've got a tiny chassis and a beast electric engine, I mean, that thing's going to break your neck.
Yeah, the point of it will be to make it like a super fast sports car.
Yeah. Not
which is not what the Model S is trying to be.
No. So that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
And then they could do it. They could do like I don't know if they could do like an HGV, but something.
That's what I was thinking. Like if it takes off and they suddenly become like a big like world player car manufacturer. And the Model 3 is very successful, and they managed to get their production rates up and everything.
Yeah.
Then maybe you will start to see like HGVs and trucks and all kinds of things being manufactured by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's possible. And then of course there are other manufacturers who are going to enter the fray a bit later, further down the road. So there's the Faraday. We talked about a bit of CES, the Faraday Future, which is kind of the sort of mysterious. No one really knows what the hell it is. Company.
Yeah, like Batmobile thing that they announced at CES.
Yeah, that was a bit odd. But the word is that's not going to be anything like the car they're going to actually produce.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's going to end up being something like more family friendly type. Yeah. Like a Model 3 competitor.
Yeah.
And then also Apple.
Even more secretive.
No,
not even. I mean, it's not even confirmed that they are making a car.
No.
Apart from the fact that they obviously are making a car.
Yes. Everyone seems to know they're making a car.
Yeah.
As they said, I think it was Elon Musk said it's like an open industry secret at this point.
Yeah,
they're just hiring, like constantly hiring
engineers.
Yeah, exactly. Electric car engineers.
Yeah, and you don't do that to do nothing.
Exactly
what Elon said. But yeah, so that's like an open secret and all that stuff. Yeah. So there probably will be some announcement about that at some point.
Yes.
Looking forward to a very, very minimalist. So we were talking about this earlier. I think that all of the electric cars you've seen that have been successful, like the Leaf and like obviously all the Teslas, have like slight elements of like a futuristic design and kind of look a bit different from traditional cars, but essentially are just traditional looking cars.
Yeah.
Just very subtly kind of changed.
Yeah, as in their just aesthetically.
Yeah, just aesthetically, just the way that they look.
Yeah, I mean
because people aren't just gonna if Tesla brought out the Model S and it just looked like some crazy like flying saucer thing, people aren't going to be running out to buy it, are they?
No.
It's not going to be a desirable thing.
They've got to sell it as a normal car.
It's got to look like a car. Yeah.
Oh well, I mean the most sort of futuristic thing we've probably seen are the sort of the BMW hybrids, the i8 and stuff.
Yeah.
To me, that's probably the most of the electric kind of hybrid lot.
They almost look like a concept car.
They almost look like concept cars. Yeah. They've gone a bit more extreme on the styling than the Teslas or the Chevy or anything like that has.
But then even like things like the Model 3, from certain angles, does look quite radical actually. Even though it's it has flavors of like something that we've never seen before. on the roads.
Yes. The front's a bit weird.
And obviously like the big sweeping like glass roof.
Yeah.
Makes it look like a kind of like a bit like a concept.
The front's got that, because they had on the Model S, didn't they, the little radiator.
Yes.
Like fake radiator,
like
kind of black
panel at the front.
Yeah, to make it look like it had a radiator like most other cars. But in the concepts of the Model 3, that doesn't have that. It's just got this sort of like
just like a
front.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they'll change that for the actual thing.
But I think I don't know. I think I like it.
I'm definitely up for them trying it. But there's just, but it's not an extreme design by any means. It's a very nice looking car, but it's not.
But maybe there's like once people are starting to adopt these things more and more, maybe there is like, we will start to see, because there's no reason for an electric car to look like a internal combustion car.
Not hugely the same. No, it can be
play
more
with the
extreme
design a little bit different, a bit more. So maybe if Apple are making a car, which they obviously are, it will end up looking a bit. I can see Apple doing that. I don't see Apple making a car that looks like. I just can't imagine them making something that looks like reminiscent of a car we know now. Yeah. I reckon, it'll be very minimal, based like an iPhone on wheels.
Glass and steel.
Yeah. Just really, really simple, like smooth, just like very, very unusual looking.
I just can't see them making something that looks like any of the Teslas or anything. Surely it's going to look like. I was thinking, would it look similar to the Google car? But the Google car is kind of cutesy and non-threatening, and that's designed for that because it's an autonomous vehicle. I don't think Apple are going to go. I mean, they might make an autonomous car, and I'm sure they will further down the road.
Yeah, their first.
But if they come out with if their first electric car is driven by a passenger, then they will presumably come out with something that is just probably going to look.
Well, hopefully,
it's not going to be cutesy and non-threatening. It's just going to be very smart, and it's just going to look like the rest. All their designs have like a similar flavour. I just can't imagine it looking like a normal car.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't, because they will get away with it. That's the thing.
They've got a big enough consumer base that will buy the car.
People will lap it up regardless.
They'd be loving it.
Yeah. They'll be like, "Oh, sweet, the Apple car." And, if it literally is just like a fucking iPhone on wheels, they'll be like, getting one of them.
Just a big plane of glass,
like rectangular block of glass.
Yeah,
nice metal rim around the edge.
Yeah, I reckon. I'm quite excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, same. I wonder when we're going to get any info on that.
Who knows? And like what its performance is going to be and all that sort of stuff. It's a huge change that Tesla has brought for showing that automakers don't have to be the old school kind of. I suppose like in America, the Detroit kind of car manufacturers. That Silicon Valley now. Is going to be potentially where the big revolutions in car technology are going to come from, because everything is getting turned electric. Everything's becoming
the fact that
computer.
the big tech companies like Google and like Apple are the ones that are going to be producing sort of the new generation of cars, obviously with like Tesla as well.
And that Tesla's a Silicon Valley company. Really. It's not. It's not your
traditional automotive company at all. No. So
it's a software company almost. Loads of what they do is they've got half their teams like software engineers, I think.
Yeah, well, they're really pushing for the autonomous stuff, like hard.
Yeah,
that's a big deal, and we'll talk about that in future episode.
We will.
But so you're right. Yeah, software company for sure, especially looking forward.
I think most of the challenges. Well, I'm going to go straight into autonomous cars. We'll talk about that later. Yes, but this kind of push by Silicon Valley and those types of tech companies. I mean, we see like the Samsung car and these electronics giants.
Yeah,
it's become a car's a gadget. It will become more and more of.
It's already seen in that way, and once you're right. Once these companies see the success of like Apple or whatever, or Google or Tesla,
they might all jump in. Oh, it's a different engineering problem building electric cars to phones or whatever. Yeah.
And then you wonder like whether the old giants will be able to keep up.
Well, I mean, like we said, the Chevrolet Bolt, we'll see, because that, of course, is on some of the technical specs does match up to the Model 3.
Yeah.
But we'll see if it can meet it in terms of usability and all the things that people love their Teslas for.
Yeah.
And the software and everything that comes with the Tesla, and the style of the Tesla and everything that kind of comes with it. Whereas the fact that Tesla's like a desirable brand now. And like Apple,
I desire it.
like Apple is a desirable brand. Whereas Chevrolet is not really in the same way. No. I mean, some of the Chevy cars are, but they don't have. You're not buying into the future. You wouldn't potentially feel like in the same way as if you bought an Apple car or something.
Yeah. Exactly. It's if you feel like you're taking a step into like a future world by buying something like a Tesla or like the potential Apple car. Yeah. Whereas like the Chevy is like, it's just the Chevy Volt.
It's just their electric car.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess to kind of like wrap that whole section off. So do we reckon then that the internal combustion engine is on its way out? That like this revolution that's going on right now with electric cars is sort of the beginning of the end for internal combustion.
Yeah, and it probably is. It's not just like we were saying earlier. It's not that we're running out of fuel necessarily, or it's becoming too expensive, or we're realizing we're screwing up the planet. We've just got the technology now to make cars that are better than internal combustion engine cars using electric techniques. So it's on its way out because they're going to become more desirable. The only reason
to own an internal combustion car in the future will be
like
because it's a collector's item. Like because it's a bit of fun.
I mean, they'll still be around, but they'll just be
in the same way that people might own like classic cars or like kit cars and
they'll
stuff
still
like
be
that.
Around, but they'll just be far less common.
Because electric cars will and already are just becoming better. In every way. A few other bits to catch up with range and stuff like that, but that's inevitably going to be sorted out eventually. So, is it the end of the? It will take a while for it to be phased out because the buy-in price for electric cars is fairly high at the moment. It is
the sort of initial cash you have to splash.
And the second-hand thing is going to be a big part of it because there's a huge market in second-hand internal combustion cars. Especially in
first car. I mean, you're not going to be buying a brand new Tesla or whatever.
Exactly, and like places away from like the Western world, like
other
places in the world where potentially have like, some of the highest emissions and some of the most populated cities in the world. Don't have supercharging networks. Not everyone has got the money to buy like a Model 3. You're just buying like second-hand, like third-hand. Workhorse, internal combustion cars,
and the knowledge base for building internal combustion engine cars is far more distributed around the world than it is to build an electric car. So it's going to take a while
to fix, to maintain all this stuff.
But it will take a good few decades for these older cars to be slowly replaced. But it just seems like an inevitability now that we've basically been shown the way. That they are probably better cars. For most situations.
In the same way that smartphones kind of like permeated out. Like gradually until like almost everyone in the world has a smartphone.
Because they were just better than the old phones. No matter they're as expensive if not more expensive than some of the old phones.
Definitely.
They're just so useful, so much better that we now
they do more things than
I can't live without one.
They offer you a lot more. Anyway. So now it's time.
Oh, nuts of the week,
for nuts of the week. Which is
your
actually
turn.
just it's my turn, and it actually just flows nicely from what we were just talking about. Is it really that nutty? I'm not sure. It's kind of intriguing.
Yes.
But potentially a bit nutty.
Let me hear it.
So it's basically this rumor that's going around that Faraday Future. So we were talking about Faraday Future. This kind of like semi-secretive electric car company. Kind of a bit like a startup or whatever, seeming to be in competition with Tesla in a way. The next kind of generation of like boundary pushing, high tech, electric cars. That actually, what that is a front for the Apple car. So that is the Faraday Future company are the people working on the Apple car, and they're all working for Apple. And this is a kind of rumor that's actually started to build over the last like year or so. Various like weird like tangential bits of evidence people are pulling in.
That's a lot of effort for Apple to go to hide something that everyone knows they're doing anyway.
Well, that's the thing, everyone knows they're doing it anyway, so like be open about it, as in just have a company which is doing it openly, and give it a fake like say that it's a totally different company, it kind of pulls the wool over your eyes, people's eyes a bit, or at least like distracts people from what's actually going on.
Well, yeah,
and doing a big launch at like CES and stuff, and
but
showing
that was
car.
kind of a bit. Apple wouldn't do something like that.
But that's exactly the point. They wouldn't do something like that, which throws you off the scent. Throws people off.
But why are they so keen on never being thrown off the scent? Like, because Faraday Future are doing something over there, we're not all totally distracted from Apple. Most people don't give a shit about Faraday Future because we don't know what they are.
Yeah,
we know what Apple is.
Yeah.
So it's not a very good kind of. It's not like the journalists are like, I literally can't see what Apple's doing because I'm so focused on Faraday Future. Like,
yes, which is kind of actually the opposite, because if they're focused on Faraday Future, then they're focused on Apple. That's the thing about this.
Yeah.
This is it a conspiracy theory? I'm not sure.
It sounds like a borderline conspiracy theory.
Borderline. But yeah, there's like things like this. Apparently, no one knows who the CEO of Faraday Future is.
That's a bit weird.
Which is a bit weird. Like the guy who did the CES announcements.
Oh yeah,
was like one of the high up people in Faraday Future. One of the like top designers. I think he used to work for Tesla.
Oh.
And there's all this other stuff about them. Like for example, they just put a ton of money apparently into investing in some land to build a huge manufacturing plant.
Okay.
To start churning out cars.
Yeah.
Apple have apparently done the same thing.
Yes.
So it could potentially be the same money.
Same money, same site.
Same money, same site. And there's a few other things like people like maybe this means something.
Okay.
I'm not convinced by it at all.
Some tangential kind of.
Yeah, I'd be up for it. It'd be quite funny. It'd be quite funny if it actually ended up.
I don't know anything about it aside from the stuff that I've.
Well, there's not much to know other than people are talking about it.
Yeah, I didn't know until you told me, but so I haven't read up on what their reasons are like particularly, but my first reaction is sounds a bit weird.
Does sound a bit weird.
Sounds like they're clutching at straws a bit. It might be true, but it doesn't sound like the evidence is there to say it is or it isn't.
No, exactly. There's just some things that are like, what's going on with that?
Yeah. That's quite a funny. Imagine they just one day come out like Faraday Future kind of hold a press conference and they just like rip off the Faraday Future badge and there's an Apple badge underneath.
Yeah. There's all the branding for Faraday Future and stuff, which would obviously just have been a smokescreen if this is true.
Yeah,
which is all a bit strange.
And it's quite good branding.
It is quite good branding. It's cool.
I quite like the badge.
But then
you think about that last time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, to think about the stuff that the car, like some of the aspects of the Faraday Future car that we reckoned in our CES
quite
chat.
Phone centric, isn't it?
Very phone centric, yeah, and all about like, personal. You have it has like a place to put a smartphone in the steering wheel, and it knows like your settings and like has that kind of like integration that you might have with a smartphone, but in the car. And I remember thinking
where you
at the
literally
time,
like put your phone in the steering wheel, and it just like changes all the seat settings. Everything is just like in your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And just like whatever Faraday Future car you get in,
yeah,
you stick your phone in it, and everything's on the phone. Every like personal,
or eventually probably in a cloud or whatever. Yeah. So like I remember saying at the time, like quite liking all these aspects of the Faraday Future car, which were moving almost in like a smartphone direction. Yeah, it's like maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it's because they're actually a smartphone manufacturer that's making the Faraday Future cars. I don't know. I'm still not convinced.
I'm not convinced. No, but I mean, I guess it's possible. Yeah, it seems a bizarre thing to do though. From Apple's perspective, I mean, they don't.
Unless there's some very very long game marketing like plan.
What they aren't. Well, I mean, what happens if they aren't even ever going to market it as Apple cars? They're going to use a different brand name.
Yeah,
that seems odd though.
That does seem
Apple's
odd,
such a strong brand.
Exactly what we were saying before. Like that will make
doesn't
it
make
sell.
Any sense, really, does it?
Doesn't make any sense. But what I mean is like generating these rumors and stuff and getting people talking about that. That's a very long game, kind of like viral marketing scheme. But then why would they need to do that?
I mean, just the fact that Apple are developing cars, the most valuable company in the world.
Yeah,
that's enough to get. They don't need to do anything clever or whatever to get people interested in a car they're making.
Yeah,
at all.
So it's almost certainly bollocks.
It seems like that. It just seems unnecessary. It seems superfluous, and that doesn't. It's the sort of thing that you might see some smaller company do or something, to try and help promote whatever they're trying to do. But Apple don't need to do that. It makes no sense.
No. Yeah. So almost certainly bollocks. Unlike,
but still, I like it. I like to hear these types of things.
Yeah, it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unlike all the other nutters of the week we always do, which are obviously all true. So this one,
this is closer to being true than most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up today's little chat about electric cars.
Don't think there's anything else I want to add about electric cars or indeed mad conspiracy theories.
No. There'll be more of that.
There will.
Coming.
Next week we're probably doing something sort of in the same vein.
Yeah, following on a bit. Probably going to talk a bit about autonomous vehicles. We and some dodged it a bit today.
Yes.
And maybe some other stuff as well.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
A lot more again, like future transport type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you all again for listening.
And as always, if you want to get in touch, just comments or and we'll
reply to them in the episodes or on YouTube.
Keep it coming.
Uh-huh.
Good stuff.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.